Well, we might as well get started because I think we've hit the, no, we have 1 minute according to my watch, but we'll start anyway.
Just by a show of hands.
Show of hands.
Show of hands, like how many manufacturers?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. By show of hands, good idea, Rich. By show of hands, how many manufacturers here? Good. How many resellers? No bunch of those. Okay. I bet you have some stories to tell, including other things about manufacturers that have policies like this but don't enforce them and drive you nuts. Do we have any racers, any end users here? We've got a few of those. Okay.
Engine builders? Do we miss anything?
Okay.
I will take your silences now.
Oh.
Thank you. All right.
Any event, as I said, my name is Gene Zelek, lawyer type. I happen to do a whole lot of these kinds of policies, not only for the automotive aftermarket, but a lot of different industries. And I've been doing this for a long time, and we've literally done hundreds of them in just about any industry you can imagine. And in fact, if you're looking to buy something and you notice the price is pretty sticky, you don't see much discounting, chances are it's subject to a policy. And it's sort of a giveaway. In any event, so we're gonna talk about these things. I'll start first and lay some foundation, and then Rich will finish with the substantive stuff. Before anything, though, went backwards. PRI wants us to give us this big statement. It's like reading your Miranda rights, but what it really says is, look, we're going to talk about areas of common interest, but what you take away from this is up to you. We're not telling you what you need to do. We're not agreeing on anything. You apply your own analysis and then operate accordingly. Okay, so the topic is resale price erosion, and that's really what causes a desire to put these policies in place. And resale price erosion is caused by corrosive channel conflict. What I mean by that is there's always some channel conflict, whether it be among individual channel members, distributor to distributor, dealer to dealer, whatever. But we're talking about a situation where you get some resellers, typically, who have lower costs of doing business. Amazon's a pretty good example. And they pass on those lower costs of doing business by throwing out really low resale prices. And that drives the people crazy who have higher costs of doing business because they can't make enough money. So that's what I call corrosive price competition. So for a lot of manufacturers, traditional resellers complain to them that they can't make enough money on their products. And they want better buy prices. So listen, manufacturer, lower your price to me so that I can maintain my margin because the market price for your good is just not there. And they threaten to drop brands with insufficient margin, which makes sense. If you're not making money, you shouldn't be selling money-losing brands. And some of them will emphasize higher margin private label. So they'll try to move the end user over to private label where their margins tend to be better. And then if you're dealing with online resellers, it's very much their way or the highway. Those of you that have dealt with Amazon know it's Amazon's game. They quite frankly don't give a damn about you or your business. It's all about Amazon. And it's all about building their base. In fact, when Amazon, I wouldn't say started out, but certainly for the first few years, they made no money in buying and selling goods. And in fact, because they were offering them at dirt low prices. And why were they doing that? It seems counterintuitive, but they were building their base of customers. That's what they want. They want to be all things to all people. They want a gazillion customers. So there are a bunch of different ways to fight resale price erosion. When you have cross-channel conflict, we're seeing in a lot of industries, not so much this one, but a lot of industries, people who historically have sold professional products are now selling them to consumers instead of through professional channels, and vice versa, causing channel conflict. Well, one thing that you can do is you can raise buy prices by channel, or another way to put it is if you've got brick and mortar resellers and you've got online resellers, you can actually charge them different prices for your products. And the idea being you'll charge a higher price to the online people in order for them to maintain, to get a margin. They're going to keep their price up. And you can charge a lower price to the brick and mortar people because they need more margin. That's one solution. You can differentiate your channels by varying the product. So we don't sell the same product in all the channels. We have different products in different channels. Another one is siloed products, what I call BAMO, bricks and mortar only. We had a client in the business of making swimming pool cleaners, automated swimming pool cleaners, and they did just that. They took a bunch of products and they said, you can't sell these online. These are brick and mortar only products. Or you can have price discussions. It's lawful for manufacturers to talk to resellers and say, gee, Bob, you can get a better price for my product. We suggest you take the price up. Nothing wrong with that, perfectly okay. You can't threaten, you can't do other things, but you can do that. Culling discounters. Some companies just very quietly get rid of discounters. Rolex supposedly does that. They have no MAP policy or resale price policy, but if they catch a jeweler who's selling at too low a price, they're just gone. The jeweler says, what did I do, what did I do? And Rolex says, you know. And that's it, their history. But what we're talking about today are pricing programs. That is setting or encouraging a resale price. And you can either do it by agreement or unilateral policy. So what's the difference? When you have an agreement, first you have to get approval from the other side to agree to do whatever it is that's in the agreement. And then every time you make a change, unless the agreement allows for it, you've got to get them to approve the change. Now, the bad news in that regard, particularly if you're a manufacturer and you've got a lot of resellers, is that gives every individual reseller veto power. Because one reseller says, nah, I'm not going to agree to that. You're dead, because then it's not uniform. In contrast, a unilateral policy is simply an announcement. And which means, because it's unilateral, so no agreement is required, you can change it at any time you feel like it. So these policies that we're going to talk about, or this area, tends to use policies because they're very, very favorable. They're flexible because you don't need agreements to change them. And they're also better from a legal point of view, which we'll come to in a second. But it's a very powerful tool. And they actually reside on kind of what we lawyers would call a legal fiction. And that is, a well-written policy will say, hey, reseller, you don't have to follow this policy if you don't want to. Absolutely okay, not a problem. You don't have to follow. But if you choose not to follow, bad things happen to you, like we stop selling you. Okay, so the analogy I use, and those of you may have heard me speak before, you probably heard this. So suppose you have a teenage daughter and you tell her that her weekend curfew is midnight. And you say, look, you want to come in after midnight? Perfectly okay, but then you're grounded till you're 35. Okay, that's what this is. And we'll talk about it in more detail. Okay, there are two kinds of pricing policies, two generic kinds. The first, and I'll skip to the second first because that's one that's used all the time. People talk about MAP programs. It stands for minimum advertised price. And they will refer to this whole area as MAP. It's not, that's a misnomer. So MAP only covers some offers but never the actual selling price. So in a brick and mortar context, MAP covers anything inside the store, anything outside the store, direct mail, newspaper ads, catalogs, whatever, but nothing in the store, displays, price tags, so on, not covered. In the online context, a MAP policy will cover the product page, the in-the-cart price. Some people think you can't do that, but you can cover the in-the-cart price, but never the checkout price. So if some magic discount falls from the sky at checkout, that's not covered by these policies. Okay, that's what a MAP policy is. And there's a variation on MAP called EMAP or IMAP if it only applies to online offers. Okay? So it doesn't cover brick and mortar. So that's MAP. In contrast, minimum resale price or minimum retail price programs, we'll get you to MRP, cover all offers in the actual selling price. So here, unlike MAP, in the brick and mortar context, you cover everything inside the store, everything outside the store. In online, it's everything, including checkout, is covered. And our clients used to be about a 50-50 split. Lately, it's been probably more MAP policies than MRP programs. But a number of them, including in the automotive area, such as Rich's company, have MRP programs. And it really is a preference kind of issue and how much control you want to exert. But you can do either. From a legal point of view, pricing agreements. So if you have an agreement on price, the good news is if it's MAP, it's covered by something called the rule of reason at the federal and state level. What's the rule of reason? We're not trying to turn you into lawyers. You've got honest work. Rule of reason is a manufacturer favorable antitrust standard that says we presume it's legal until it can be shown to be anti-competitive. What does that mean? It's hard for a plaintiff to win these cases, which means low risk for manufacturers, okay? So the good news is if you do it by agreement, it's rule of reason at the federal and state levels. However, MRP, there was a Supreme Court case in 2007 that said it's now rule of reason. That's good. However, 5 states said, we don't care about what happens at the federal level. Under our state laws, if you set a minimum resale price by agreement, it's illegal. And those 5 states are California, New York, Illinois, Michigan, and Maryland. Okay, actually, New York doesn't make it illegal, it makes it unenforceable. For this reason, if you're going to do MRP, your only choice is to do it by policy. But even for MAP, we prefer unilateral pricing policies because they're more flexible. Why? I can change a policy anytime I feel like it. I don't need an agreement from the other side. Simply a lot more flexible and more bulletproof from a legal point of view because policies are exempt from the price fixing laws. So that's why they're there. Now, if you sell or you're concerned about Canada and Mexico, in Canada and Mexico, it doesn't matter whether it's MAP or MRP, it's rule of reason. And you can do agreements or policies. It doesn't matter either. They're all subject to the same rule of reason standard. However, we still recommend policies because it's a better business choice. They're more flexible. So that's why we like policies. Now we'll talk about that. So if you're going to do a policy, whether you are thinking about it or whether you're already doing one and it's not working so well, you kind of go through the same steps. You start with having a philosophy. Why are we doing this? What's our goal here? What are we trying to accomplish? And laying the foundation, which means getting support throughout the business to do this. Who tends to hate these programs? Salespeople. Why do they hate it? Because particularly if salespeople are compensated on volume, the last thing they want you to do is piss off a reseller. Okay? So they tend not to like these. But if senior management says this is the way we got to go, or in those organizations that are reward their salespeople on profit, not just on volume, you get more support for this. But you do need support throughout the organization for it. And the big thing is commitment. What do I mean by commitment? Commitment is, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to enforce it. And if enforcing it means we have to cut some people off, we're going to cut them off. Now that's easy for me to say. It's hard when you're in business. As one of my clients said, hey, I'm in the business to sell product, not cut people off. And my response is, yeah, but unfortunately it's one of your only tools to get compliance. And by the way, it's lawful. You cut somebody off for violating your policy. If you decide 3 weeks later, 3 months later, that they're now deserving of another chance, can you turn them back on? Absolutely. If there's somebody else who's really kind of a scumbag and you never want to turn back on, that's okay too, because the law does not require you to sell everybody. You can pick and choose your customers. So resellers tend to get behind these programs when they realize, hey, wait a minute, these guys are helping preserve my margin or maybe enhance it because they're taking away price competition from other people. I can compete on service, I can compete on other kinds of things, but they take away price competition, and that's often important. From a manufacturer point of view, maybe certain price points that you want to maintain, not only for your own profitability, but for your resellers, and maybe you're positioning your brand. Maybe it's a prestige brand, and you don't want to be discounted all over the place. So, anyway, commitment's important. Then step 2, and again, this goes with you're thinking about doing this or you're already doing it and you want to do it better, where are the problem areas? So where are we experiencing this price erosion? Is it just online, or is it brick and mortar too? Is it just in the United States, or is it in the United States and Canada, for example? Is it at the retail level, meaning like the dealer level or resale level, or do we also have it at the distributor level? Once again, ACT has its MRP programs. They apply at both the distributor level, so there's one price that's set, and at the next level down with different prices set. So they cover both of them. Now, not everybody does that. I'm not saying you have to. If you're not having problems at the distributor level, you don't do it. You do it just at the retail level. Rich can talk more about that later. And then you design your policy. So there's a whole bunch of things to think about, what should be in it, like the effective date, what should be the penalties, and so on and so forth. But I want to stress, you can't have a successful policy unless you're willing to control distribution. If you sell to everybody with a pulse, you may cut somebody off for a policy violation. If they can source the product elsewhere, they're just going to thumb their nose and keep going and discounting, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you've got to have the ability, when you cut somebody off, you cut them off. Now, how do we do that? We incorporate in our policy that it's a violation for any reseller to sell to another reseller. They can only sell to end users. That's one way to do it. Now, if you have a problem with that, and you don't mind if your resellers sell to each other, we'll say, okay, you can do that, but only to the resellers we allow you to sell to. So if we've cut off a reseller, we're not going to allow you to sell to them. Okay? So you incorporate some of the things too. You require your distributors to follow your do not sell lists. If you cut somebody off, they can't sell them. And you do a number of other things to control distribution. But I can't stress that enough. If you don't do the other part of the puzzle, controlling distribution, you're wasting your time, money, and energy setting up a policy. And there are a lot of companies out there, usually under pressure from their resellers. They adopt a policy. Everybody loves them to death. It looks good on paper. They don't enforce it. It falls apart. It pisses off their resellers who are complying. They say, how come you're allowing them to do it where you're going after me? And you lose credibility, and it just doesn't work. 4 is you implement it and you enforce it, and the question is how do you enforce it, and what the penalties are, and so on and so forth. And then obviously over a period of time, like any process within your businesses, you periodically revisit and adjust. So people say to me, okay, you've done a lot of these policies. How long before we have to revise it? I wouldn't say ours, our average, maybe it's the most common, is 5 years. 5 years when the policy doesn't have to be touched. Why? Because it covers everything we can think about that's important to the company. And we're pretty good at predicting what that is based on our experience. I just did actually for 2 automotive people. Their policy was 10 and 11 years old respectively. Had not been touched in those years. Now, how do you then make changes? Again, they're unilateral, so you just announce a new policy, not a problem. You can always change it. But the list that provides the minimum prices, whether they're MRPs or MAPs, is separate. And that's the document you change periodically, obviously. You change it when you add new products, when you discontinue products, when you change, you take a price increase and maybe you up the MAPs, whatever it is you do. So what are the penalties for policy violations? And they're generally of 2 kinds. They're financial. So if you're providing co-op advertising dollars and other kinds of things, you pull the accrued funds and no additional accrual during the penalty period. So let's say your penalty period is 60 days after you catch somebody in a violation. So you say for 60 days, you lose whatever you've accrued that we haven't paid you yet, and you don't accrue anything else for another 60 days. That's one alternative. Another one that we've used, and I really like this one because I invented it, and it just shows how incredibly clever I am, or I think I am. And this is the loss of an implicit discount. So what you tell the violators, you say, look, implicit in my price to you is a 5% discount for advertising and marketing. If you violate my MAP or my MRP program, you lose that implicit discount. What does that mean? For the next 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the penalty period is, your purchase price went up by 5%. Pretty sneaky. Another one is interim loss of product access. So we often do these in tandem to say, if there is money on the table, if there isn't money on the table, there's no point in electing the first option. But if there's money on the table, in terms of doing it in tandem, we'll have a financial penalty and or the loss of product access. So for the next 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the penalty period is, you violator can't get access to our product. We put you on the do not sell list, so you're cut off. We won't sell you directly. Now, this is dependent, how long that period ought to be is dependent on what their inventory position is and other factors. What we're looking for, these are interim kinds of penalties. This isn't the big enchilada where you cut them off altogether. This is the interim penalties. We're looking for sting to show that we're really serious about this. So we want to sting them, not shoot them till they're dead. We want to sting them, and that's the idea. And by the way, when I mean interim penalties, a typical penalty structure is first strike, we tell you screwed up. We give you 48 hours to clean it up. If you can clean it up during that period, nothing happens to you, but you've accrued 1 penalty. You've accrued 1 violation, I should say. Second strike, 30, 60, 90 days, you lose dollars or product access or both. And a third strike, either then we pull the plug or in a 4-strike program, the third strike would look like the second strike but be longer. And the 4th strike is the loss of product access for an indefinite period of time. Now remember, indefinite just means we pull the plug. If we think that the violator has redeemed itself, we turn them back on. We can turn them back on in a period and not turn everybody back on. So we say indefinite. That just gives us the discretion to do it for a short period or long period. Another thing we see in a lot of policies is people come across as timid when they say, oh, if you violate, we reserve the right. No, we don't go for any of that. We say you will. Because I mentioned my wife earlier, who's a lawyer, by the way. What she taught me is it's not the severity of the punishment that matters, it's its certainty. And I live by that, and have lived by that for a long time. So the fact that there will be a penalty, not that there may be, makes a big difference. Okay, careful implementation. You've got to avoid any kind of agreement if you have a unilateral policy on advertised resale price. There can't be any contracts. So we see this all the time. Somebody will have a dealer agreement or something. They'll say, you have to follow all of our policies. If you have a unilateral map policy, by putting that in an agreement that you have to follow all our policies, you've now created an agreement. That's a no-no. No assurances of compliance. You don't want people calling up saying, oh, Mary, it's about time you did this. Where do I sign up? No probation. By probation, I mean they do it, they suffer the penalty. They're not given slack, except for that first violation. And it sometimes requires some training and guardrails for the field people in headquarters. What we like is your salespeople don't talk about the policy. Anybody wants to complain, anybody wants to, including complaining about another reseller, it all goes to the policy administrator. And the policy administrator is somebody at headquarters, usually involved in sales administration, who is the face of the policy and enforces the policy and answers questions and whatever. This person can have a lot of autonomy or can be limited in autonomy, meaning that to the public, he or she is responsible for this. But behind the scenes, there's a committee of senior management or whatever that advises or makes the decisions. Do we really want to cut off Walmart, for example, and whatever? Question in the back. Hold your questions just for a bit. So one other thing I want to touch on. I mentioned controlling distribution. And usually in B2B areas, this is used more frequently than in consumer areas. But you have something called non-price vertical restrictions. And what that means is you can tell your resellers who they can sell to and who they can't, control their customers, where they can sell and where they can't. You're not allowed to sell online or you're not allowed to sell on certain websites, and what they can sell and what they can't. You only have certain products that you're authorized, you don't get our full line or whatever it happens to be. These are all judged under the rule of reason, and they're a way to help control channel conflict and price erosion, and they also facilitate economic discrimination. What I mean by that is, for those that are aware of something called the Robinson-Patman Act, it requires you, if you're a manufacturer or a reseller, unless you're selling to the public. If you're selling to the public, this doesn't apply, but if you're selling to another reseller, you have to treat competing customers alike on pricing unless you have a good reason to differentiate. This is a way, by deciding who competes against whom, controlling that, to allow you more economic discrimination. Customers that don't compete, you can charge different prices to all day and all night. You want to avoid this, the reseller of the year. Now, it's true, I took this off of Rich's dating app picture. It's him in a better time, but this is what you want to avoid. In any event, how are we doing time-wise? Did I run way over? Okay. There was a question in the back. Can we deal with it real quickly, or should we hold off to the end?
So the manufacturer set the map, right?
Yes.
So that's some standard cards for template. And I look at that part and it was way cheaper than most.
Okay. Yeah, and it could be, I don't know if everybody heard that, but you know what happens when you find out about it directly or indirectly, that Summit's got it at one price and Jegs has got it at another price, and one of them is below MAP or minimum resale price. Should you report that to the manufacturer? And yeah, you should. That having been said, it may be possible that the manufacturer is not enforcing their policy very well, or it may be that they have cut some slack to Jegs or Summit for whatever reason. I mean, all these things can cause trade relations issues, and just because you complain doesn't necessarily mean they'll take action. And sometimes there's good reason not to take action. So for example, we built into all our policies flexibility to allow the manufacturer to do one-off exceptions. And what do I mean by that? Suppose a reseller comes to you and says, hey, we want to do a 50th anniversary sale, and we'd like to feature your products. Or we want to do a show special at this particular speed show, and we want to offer your products. And you say, look, for you and you only, for the 4 days of the show, you can go down to this, here's your new map or your new minimum resale price. You can do that, and we allow that. Now, problem with doing that, though, is that you get other people that are price matchers, particularly online. Amazon is a notorious price matcher. And Amazon, oddly, will not just focus on their real competitors. Amazon, will, if they find somebody selling onesies, twosies on eBay, they're going to say, oh, damn, we're too high, and they'll drop their price, which makes no sense at all. There's somebody nodding. You've experienced this. You have to be careful about what you do, and you've got to enforce. So when you do these one-off things, understand there may be price matchers, and we prohibit price matching in our policies. But some people are going to do it anyway, and the question is, you're going to ding them. So use that carefully. But then the other thing we allow for are overall MAP holidays or resale price policy holidays. What do I mean by that? Suppose you want a spring sale, and during the month of April, you say, hey, our MAP or our MRP during the month of April is dropped by 10%. Okay, it's a sale. You do that. And then May 1, they go back up to the regular levels. You can do that too. So again, we try to build flexibility in. Any other questions before I turn it into my, I'll turn things over to my more learned colleague? Okay, well, and we'll have questions at the back end too.
All right, Gene
Rich?
Zelek, everybody. Hey, come on now, come on.
People always clap when I finish, but never when I start.
In 1743. That is not true. Hey everybody, I am Rich Barsamian. That is not me. It really is. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Advanced Clutch Technology. May I have that water real quick? Thank you, sir. No, I'm good. I've been there since 2010. And immediately when I began working for the company, I did my first SEMA show in 2010 for them. And repeatedly people were coming in and going, I love your line, but I can't make any money on it. I love your line, but I can't make any money on it. All right. So I began to research and kind of figure out what we were going to do. I had seen a policy seminar actually here many years ago by an attorney that basically forbade it and scared the living daylights out of you that you cannot do these things and everything. But a lot has changed since then, the Legion decision, amongst other things. So when it's done right, you can do it. And anywho, the first thing is a lot of people will ask me, well, how long does it take to really get a policy going? It takes about 6 to 12 months. And the reason that is, you know, everybody's got to get on board that they realize that you have a policy, that you mean business, and you're gonna enforce your policy. I can't underscore that enough. It's so huge for you. If you don't have any teeth behind your policy, don't have one. You're an embarrassment, and you're absolutely a joke to resellers and distributors. You know, there's just no respect for you out there, and so you have to do that. I was fortunate. ACT is a family-owned business. We've been around for 30 years. We started in '94, and I had the full support of ownership that we would do this. Did it hurt the first year? Yeah, it did hurt a little bit. But after that year, it was okay. And being the head of sales and marketing, it's totally counterintuitive to cut people off and, you know, watch it go away. But what you learn is that the people that really want to sell your product and make a margin, they're going to abide by the policy. Everybody actually wants to make the necessary margins. You know, we want you to make the necessary margins to sell our brand so that you can give the great customer support, tech support, shipping, all the things that you do for your customers that they've grown accustomed to, right? We want you to be able to do that and be able to handle that. To sort of Matt's, you know, question about margins and that, we'll get into that a little bit, but it's really true. And you become a brand that people will trust because they're going to say, wow, I mean, it's not like it's, you know, the low level leader, right? You've got a brand of quality and it's out there. So what can speed up the process? Well, getting the word out. whether you're using MailChimp or you're using whatever services you use to get the word out, that it's a great way to let people know. Let them know before the policy of your effective date, and were the policy's intentions communicated to all known direct and indirect sellers. To 12 years ago, it was really hard 12 years ago. There was really nobody doing this in this space. Not that there wasn't, but they weren't really serious about it. And so it was rather difficult in the beginning, and now today you hear the word map like you hear the word Kleenex. No one says, "Can I have a facial tissue?" They go, "Give me a Kleenex," right? You don't ask for a cotton swab for your ear, you ask for a Q-tip. How dare you? So, anyway, we're going to move on here. The best, and before you have an effective date, and some best strategies, best practices, is you want to have a distribution list that you should be always having a distribution list of who your contacts are going to be, whether they are direct customers, direct consumers, whatever that looks like. You should have indirect and direct, because you want to get that word out to as many people as you can. The great news is today a lot of distributors are able to put your map pricing right online, right in the B2B portal, and you'll see it, which is fantastic. So just create your own spreadsheet. You can start just in Excel if you have to, just basic stuff, but get those lists together. You want to determine your current reseller prices. So go Google your top 50 products. If you have 50 products, I don't know what you have out there. And go ahead and sort that product from low to high. Okay, and start identifying. Maybe you don't have a problem. Everybody says you have a problem, but you don't really have a problem. You're actually really doing fine with it. So I'm showing you a little example here how I would do it. Our team would go in, and we have our own team that does it in-house, but I also do use a service now, a third party as well. And so this part here, T1S SO5, here it is. Everything's just sorted, just like I showed you. And you look at that, 1482, 1482, 1482. That's the MRP price. And that's what we look for. Now, sometimes you're going to see the same resellers show up, right? So you want to click on each reseller. Oh, that's what I'm doing here. I'm sorry. Oh. I'm showing you how to build the list. This is how you build your list of people that are selling your products and that you're going to be communicating to. And so just click on each reseller you can find, and in that Excel spreadsheet or whatever you use, put all that communication information down. Sometimes it's going to be really hard to find, right? We can't find their email. We can't find a phone number. By the way, by a show of hands, how many people in this room would actually buy something from a website where there was no phone number, no email address, nothing? Go ahead. Yeah, I didn't think so. What is that? Anyway, so just so you know, one of the little life hacks here is you can actually go to any government website for the Secretary of Commerce, and you can find pretty much all this information for free. You just got to become a detective. You just go looking for the stuff. So as you build this list, basically you're going to determine your current reseller prices, figure out what it's going for. You're going to Google shop your top 50 items, and then sort them low to high, and then build that list from there. And let's see here. Yeah. So basically name, email, mirror the direct customer format. Have it be the same format. Don't do a different format. And sort don't make this mistake. Be sure to sort the spreadsheet alphabetically, because you'll start to see duplicates sometimes as that starts to happen, which is really good. And you want to communicate. So you want to make sure that your new policy is either going out through Constant Contact or MailChimp or HubSpot. There's just so many different things you can use out there. And begin 90 days before your policy takes effect, okay? 90 days is a good amount of time to get people on board. Make phone calls. Don't just do blasts. If you've got certain key resellers or builders or whatever you have, give them a holler. Get them and tell you, I'm going to be doing this. This is going to be real. So that they know, and they have plenty of information beforehand. If you're not doing stuff now on that, it's just a great practice to give them a 90-day notice. And then remind them 30 days after the effective date. Tell them again that it's now in play. And notify them about the launch date. Give them advance notices to any updates to the policy. Like Gene said, I do an MRP policy. And it's very effective for our brand and what we do. There's no cookie cutter policy, so don't go looking for one. Get legal advice. Make sure you do the tried and true methods that are for your business model, not just what you saw XYZ do. That's not a great way to go. You can get into a lot of trouble there. So, sorry, it's just not working. It's not me, it's you. The spoiler alert, the number one reason that Gene alluded to for a policy not working is no enforcement. You have to enforce it. It's just incredibly important that if you don't enforce it, again, no one will take you seriously. There's got to be a penalty box. There's got to be something that stings. And from a real life experience, I can tell you that when we first did this, we had no idea what the penalty should be. We've got customers that have lots of product in stock, and we were afraid if we cut them off, well, they'll just go flood the market with our product, right? And they'll just, blow it out at whatever price they want. Well, that wasn't really true. So the first time we did it, and hey, I fall on my own sword all the time, and I will share those mistakes with you because I don't want you to make them, okay? But what I did was, we didn't know, so we just kept waiting. One of our biggest customers, we put them for the first thing they did wrong, we put them on the list for 90 days. For those of you that don't have a phone or a calendar handy, 90 days is a quarter of a year of sales. That was hard. But you know what? It showed them that we meant business right from Jump Street. And that was important for them to know that we really meant what we said we were doing. They couldn't believe it. They laughed at me. We were at a thing called the Performance Warehouse Association conference when I announced it in 2011, that 2012 we were doing this. They're like, yeah, good luck with that. And I said, oh no, it gets even better. We're going to do a policy that's at wholesale and at retail. And they were like, well, how are you going to enforce that? I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. How am I going to enforce that? I'm going to send a third-party auditor who's located in your city, in your state, and I'm going to have them come in. We're not going to see anything, no invoices, nothing. They're just going to come back and say yes or no, compliant or non-compliant. That's all we care about. And they're like, yeah, you are? I'm like, yeah, dude, if you do that, it'll be awesome. Like, that will work. They were the first ones that got the call. It was, what do you mean us? Yeah, well, we're hearing stuff out there, so we need to send somebody in. And sure enough, and it was honestly, it was so new, they just didn't have the controls in place. And that's something that you need to make sure that your companies you're going to sell to, today it's so different than back then, but they do have the controls in place to actually execute your policy, okay? Because if they don't have that, they're not going to be able to keep track of, say, that do not sell list where you're saying, look, these people are on the no-fly list. You can't buy my product. And if they can't do that, then that's going to be a problem. So that happens a lot. Mistakes happen. We get that. There's computer errors. There's computer glitches. I just saw a pressure plate of mine for sale for $19. If that's true, I should be buying the pressure plates from that guy all day. But he goes, oh my gosh, thank you for catching that. So it really is important. As Gene said, the policy is unilateral, but you need to plan for this. If you're not ready, don't launch. prepare yourself for this. Work through it. Have a game plan. Have a strategy. Talk to your inner team about what you're going to do, right? And it's going to be really important because you need more time and resources to develop it. Do it. But we live in a world where you've got to enforce, and you're going to have to invest in a system that's going to work to protect your brand if you're a manufacturer. And if you're a reseller, you want to be on board with the brands that support a policy, because you know you're always going to get your price. And how do you feel as a consumer? You feel like if you went online and you bought something that you really wanted, and then you looked online and you didn't find it, for any less, and then you saw it somewhere else for less, you're like, oh. And then does it make you feel like, well, did I just get ripped off? Did I just get, what happened? I don't know. Well, when you have a policy and you're strict about it, you're going to get a lot of respect and credibility out there, because people are going to go, wow, this is a good brand. Like, I never, you never see that brand on sale. And then when there is a sale, see, there's going to always be, as I tell you about this, there's always going to be another side to this that drives sales, right? So when you're looking at websites and they're using your old logo, they're using old pictures of product, we actually generate a message to resellers and we go, hey, just so you know, all of our data is through Aces and Pies. We have it at SEMA data. We have it through Auto Plus. However you want it, we can send it to you in a flat file, whatever you need. And we host all of our product images. We take a real product image of every part, 4 pictures, front, back, side, angle, over here. That's not true. And we basically host them on a third-party site, so anybody that wants to link to it, and this is a little newer for some people and they're not quite ready for this technology, but instead of having to upload everything, they just link to that. And trust me, we actually take new pictures of product when product changes. Our engineers, our company is 85% engineering, so when those guys make a change to a flywheel or a pressure plate or a diaphragm, we take the picture, because believe it or not, with clutches, people want to know what they're getting. It does not, what do they say? Product may vary from this image, and you get like a gray one. What is this? It's not yellow. But if you don't, and you can't launch right away, don't do it, because the credibility factor is terrible, and your name will be mud out there. And it just perpetuates the devaluation of your product if you're not ready to go. Super important. So under this still, I feel like distributors and resellers get unfairly judged sometimes and criticized. They'll go, well, so-and-so, those guys are the worst, they always have it, blah, blah, blah. And you go, well, I'm speaking to the manufacturer now. Do you have a policy? Well, yeah, we have a policy. Can I see it? Oh, well, they don't really have a policy, or they don't really enforce the policy. So put yourself in their shoes. If you're a distributor and you're stocking different lines and you go out there and you see brand XYZ and there's been no penalty whatsoever, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to be like, well, if they're doing it, I got to do it. And you may not like it, because you're trying to make margins. You're trying to keep your business going. So that's why that part of it is so important, okay? I can't stress that enough. The resellers look around, and it literally does become the race to the bottom, the race that we want no one to win, right? And if you fail to enforce, if you have a policy now, and I'm talking to you, start now. Be consistent. Change it up. Today is the day you can make that change and you can protect your brand. Because legally, I can say this, people can sell at any price they want. Go ahead. You have that right. We're in America. It's fine. But by the same right as a manufacturer, we have the right to say who and who is not an authorized reseller of our product. And that's how you get them. Because not everybody... Newsflash, and this is hard, again, for sales. Newsflash, not everybody should sell your product. Absolutely 100%. I don't want everybody selling my product. And what you find out there, I was kind of alluding to it, so we will message people and say, hey, here's our new data. Please use it. here's a link, here's our IT director. We're trying to actually do something proactive on the sales part, right? We're telling them, hey, you really want to sell ACT, you better have the right data. You better have the right pictures, right? You better have all this stuff. And I will tell you the truth. People that really want to sell your product, they're sharp about their websites. They're doing the right things. And people that don't, they're just collecting a check if they get it. If they get a hit on it, great. If they don't, next. Some websites, I'm like, whoa, 2001 called, they want their website back. Right? Like, what is that? So, be consistent, keep working, and good enforcement gets great results. It's true. Notify your violators promptly. So we're shopping every day, and the minute we see something, we send an email out directly to them. If we don't have an email and it's eBay, we will send it up through the portal. We take screenshots that we sent it through the portal so they can't go, I didn't get it. We also copy ourselves because you obviously know you can do that on eBay. Amazon portal, AI, which is not Aunt Irene for some reason. I always, in my family, AI was always Aunt Irene, but not so. Anyhow, I got dad jokes, so you're gonna have to live with that for a minute. Let it sink in, let it resonate. But when you notify the customer right away, you're helping them because sometimes they don't realize it. And my favorite thing is they'll say, they'll plead ignorance and they'll say, oh, I didn't know. So you're telling me that you have no mechanism whatsoever on your website to tell you if you're selling something below cost. Like imagine if they were selling below cost. So you have nothing, there's nothing? Come on, right? My favorite one, and this is a big one, and you'll see it out there, and this is no shade towards Amazon, but it's shade towards resellers. And this is what you'll see sometimes. You'll see your product on the Amazon site, and it says Amazon discount. How many people have seen that one where the Amazon puts the discount on, right? So what do? They make you solid as the reseller, right? You get that 10% back from Amazon so that they move that product for you. And it's weird algorithms, and it's different times, and it's all these different things. Well, then you go to bust this person for breaking the policy, right? And they go, I didn't break it. That was Amazon. He did it. No. And so what I'll have to do is send a link, and many moons ago, the program used to be, when you signed up for it, you could select the actual brands you wanted to be in this program. Nah, not anymore. It's either all in or all out. And so I just tell people, either raise the price of my product so when that happens, you won't be violating, right? So make it 10% higher, but then you gotta make it 10% higher all the time. So we're playing this weird game, right? You say to yourself sometimes, if they only used all this evil for good instead of evil, we'd be so much better. Or just take ACT out of it. Don't list me anymore. I'm okay with that because guess what? The people that really want to do a good job and really want to sell your brand, they're going to do it right. They won't play those games. They won't have your brand lumped into that situation. And I have a link. I send it to them and I go, here's how you get out, because they try to go, oh no, there's no get. I know all the tricks. Trust me. I've been doing this way too long. So I would send them a non-compliant screenshot. One of the things I require from people when they go, hey, he's doing this, I go, send me a screenshot. Listen, babe, I go to click that link and it's back up on price because, newsflash, 5 p.m. on Friday night, your product goes down in value and it goes right back up at, say, 9 p.m. on Sunday night. There's all kinds of different algorithms out there that are happening in terms of what people are playing with in terms of price, and a lot of it's just automated, and it's looking at the web, and it's looking at what product is selling for, that kind of a thing. So send a screenshot. If you don't send me a screenshot, there's really not a lot I can do unless I catch it too, and a lot of times it changes. And a lot of times what you find is they've actually either listed the UPC code wrong, or they've put the wrong product by application wrong. So you're actually not seeing someone breaking the policy, but it looks like it to the average person looking at it, but it's really not breaking the policy at all, if that makes sense. But when you're going to tell them, send them the non-compliant screenshot, send them a URL link to it so that they can, confidently click it, identify the part number, state the policy minimum price, describe the variance in dollars and percentage, because that really does make an impact, right? You always heard that story of if you really get upset with somebody, write to them first, because there's two people you can't reason with, someone who's emotional and someone who's drunk. Amen? Yes, amen. You're welcome. And sidetrack, I'm going to give you a life-changing statement. Old proverb. Think 5 times, speak once. Think 5 times, speak once. Gosh, I wish I could do that. Idiot. Anyhow, I'm trying. I'm a work in progress. So, include a copy of your current pricing and your policy. So, you're basically covering all your grounds of everything that you've got going. That's the thing to do. Now, one thing I want to share with you, this is tried and true, okay? I say if you have one thing wrong, you're guilty of all, okay? Don't sit there and tell them every single part number that is wrong. Guilty of one is non-compliance with my brand, period. That's it. Well, that sounds kind of rough, Rich. I thought you were kind of a fun guy. I am a fun guy, but don't put those two words together or you'll get fun guy. Thank you. Thank you. Here all week, people. Be good to your bartenders and waitresses. Anyhow, the reseller responsibility for the compliant, they're responsible for the compliance, okay? Not you. It's not your job. They'll go, hey, do I have anything else wrong? What's wrong with that? You don't know. What's good right now might not be good in 10 minutes. You're not the eyes and ears of the internet 24. Like if that's your job, wow, you're never going to win. So that's what I tell them. It's your job to monitor your own site, not me. Okay? I found the one thing. I don't care if it's just the one thing. Here's your warning, and I do a 3 strikes like Gene alluded to. So I say, hey, this is wrong. Fix it. If they don't fix it, then strike 2 is 30 days on the do not sell list. If they don't do it again, they get strike 3. They end up on what we call 90 days or indefinite. And to what Gene said earlier, I call indefinite basically 90 days. Because in 90 days, you're going to know if they should really be selling your product or not. You'll know. It'll absolutely resonate. And if they shouldn't be selling your product, again, if there's anybody in sales in here, please don't do what I did. Find someone else in the company to do it. Don't be the salesperson and do it. But I've learned a lot from doing it, but it's totally counterintuitive to sales. Because at the end of the day, I could be the guy who goes, I don't care what you sell it for. Because we're going to win, right? The manufacturer's going to win. But we don't want that. We want to see, I look out pragmatically and I see the end of all this and I go, I want the industry to win. I want there to be racers. I want there to be engine builders. I want there to be shops. I want all this stuff to exist so that we continue to thrive as an industry. And we just won't. And this is something that is not going to go away overnight. This is going to take time. But like I was saying earlier, there has to be a mechanism for them to know what they're selling for at all times. There's nobody that we have mechanisms at ACT that will tell us if something's priced wrong. We have audits, we have all kinds of things we can do. So, well, I guess I covered all that. Yeah, plugins running in the background. Okay. So, it's not just emotion that's taking me over. Bee Gees. For those of you that are young, look it up later. Do something with, what is that, Shazam, maybe? Anyway. Non-compliance, if non-compliance disappoints or upsets you, that's natural, especially if you're a manufacturer, because you have pride in your brand, you have a quality product, and it's hurtful. It hurts no matter what, okay? I'm not going to lie. It's hurtful. But you can't use that energy to tap out of what you need to do. just let it go and realize that it's just a yes or a no. Are they compliant or are they not compliant? And that's why I say have an admin do it. Don't have a salesperson do it. It's just counterintuitive. It's 180 degrees opposite of sales. And imagine if you had your salesperson contact your customers regarding late payment. How awkward is that, right? Hey, so you need to pay me? And then next week you go, can I have an order? Yeah, I don't do that. I won't do that. That's crazy. It's a terrible conflict of interest. Accounts receivable does collections, and they should. And don't waste time and energy. It's going to slow your progress down. It's going to get in your groove. And at the end of the day, it's just yes or no. It's not personal, you know what I mean? It's my best Bobby D for you right here. That's what I tell you. So, hey, it's going to be a good guy, huh? Just do the policy, don't do the policy. You got two ways of doing it. You can do it our way or you can do it your way, I guess. I don't know. All right, third-party enforcement. What is third-party enforcement? There are companies out there in the worlds, in the wilds, okay, that will monitor the internet for you if you're a manufacturer or a reseller and you want to see what's going on. And they will tell you with bots and find non-compliant and compliant resellers. Some will give you screenshots, some will give you the URLs, some will even do the violation notices for you. And they'll even create do not sell lists. But here's the word of warning. Somebody said it earlier, and it's really true. The internet is still the Wild West when it comes to data and selling parts in the automotive world and race. Why? Because there's no set standard that says if your website is going to list product, it has to have this, this, and this, correct? You can just not even put my product part number on there if you want to, and just sell it by application. Now, I don't know who would do that because if I don't know the part I'm buying, I'm not going to buy the part, right? But there are websites that do that. So what I mean by that is that all these bots and things will never be as good as the eyes of a live person in-house or a team of doing it. You can absolutely create your own monitoring in-house very easily and very simply. I've seen up to 80% false positives from those companies. So here's my thing. If I have to check your homework and you're 80% wrong, and I start telling people and busting people, hey, you did this, and they go, no, we're not. What are you talking about? Then it's like I'm the boy that cried wolf, right? And then the wolf's really there, and you're like, whoop, look who's here for dinner. Anyway, I will stop doing that eventually. I'm sorry about that. Anyhow, you want to make sure that ultimately, you have good data. So if I have to check your data, I could have just checked it the first time, right? Why do a job twice? You're going to pay a guy or a gal or a bot to get you this information, and then you're going to turn around and see if it's all correct? It's tough. And it's not any shade on any of those companies. Some of those companies are good, but it's the Wild West out there. There's no standard in data yet that says this is what it's supposed to look like. I'm really big on data, not just what we provide to people, but I look at data every day because data doesn't lie. Data tells you something about what's happening with your company. And a good manager is only as good as the reports they look at every day. You have to know what's going on. So those are the false positive examples. And I just reiterate, there's nothing personal here. It's just yes or no. Are you compliant or not compliant? Get over yourselves. And the people that are going to bark the loudest, their hand was caught in the cookie jar. That's all. That's all. Speaking of which, does anybody in your house ever leave the one cookie? Seriously, you couldn't have just finished that off? How dare you? All right, let's talk about do not sell lists, AKA a DNS list for those of you that don't know. I would say publish it monthly, minimum. You can also do daily and weekly, hit the ground running. Make it an easy to read spreadsheet. Make it something where it's alphabet. What I would do is make it newest violator to oldest violator, but I would put it in alphabetical order so that your customers can see it right away and know what it is. Best practices. Should you show it on your website? Some manufacturers do. They're like, here's our do not sell list. These are the bad boys. I used to really think like, I don't want people to know that mom and dad are fighting, right? Like we'll just keep that secret. I'm a little more inclined now to go, yeah, put it out there. Let everybody see it. You know, a lot of companies do it, like, not Truck Hero, what are they called now? Real Truck does that. Companies do that. It's up to you. A lot of times what you can do is just create a private URL. You can use Smartsheet, you could use Dropbox, whatever you want to use, OneDrive now. And you can have a place where people can go and you send them a URL. So what I do is I send a MailChimp out and it's got the links and you can see, you can download the do not sell list, you can download the reinstated reseller list, very important, gonna give you some sales there, and show them. But direct notice to resellers is always the best if you can do it. And again, I get it, sometimes you just won't be able to find who they are out there. And I'll get to that in a minute, but basically, we are like almost out of time here. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I guess just say any questions. Sorry. Yeah, wow. Unless you want me to keep going. If you don't have anywhere to be and there's no one coming in here, I'll just kind of try to finish this up quickly. Up to you. But if you got to go, you got to go. Yes? That's a great question. It really kind of varies. I feel like there's kind of standards out there in the industry because it kind of depends on like what it is you're selling, what the category is, and where it sits in the market. But in generalities, I would say this. I would say generally the range would be anywhere from 17 points to 30 gross points. 30 being just, wow, that's freaking awesome, right?
That's from manufacturer to wholesale.
Right. And also so at wholesale, it's probably going to be, I'm sorry, great question, my bad. So at wholesale, it's probably going to be anywhere from about 22 points to 30 points. Is really good from you to the wholesale distributor that's stocking the product, right? Then you've got to sell to the reseller, right? So now the reseller's got to make theirs. That one is probably somewhere between, 10 to 17 points, something like that, around there. It just depends.
What it really depends on is what are your resellers' costs and what's a reasonable margin on top of that. So you really need to understand what their economic needs are. They'll always tell you they need more margin, but you want to understand, what's reasonable for this. And you can also look at competitors too and see what kind of margins they're offering, because this is a competitive world. And it may be that competitors are overcompensating, but you may have no choice because you've got to go along with it because of what competitors are doing. But that's another factor that figures into it. But your point also goes to, hey, if I'm setting a minimum price, how do I know where that price is supposed to be? And it goes to what's a reasonable margin for your resellers? What do they need? What's consistent with your brand? When you're doing pricing tiers, those are often geared to your costs. So if you save money by shipping full pallets or by shipping full truckloads, if you can do that, if that's relevant, you may have a tier for that. but it's often geared toward those kinds of things, you know. And in fact, there's an analog in the law. I don't want to get into a big Robinson-Patman discussion, but I mentioned earlier, it says you have to treat competing customers alike unless you have a good reason to differentiate. One legitimate reason to differentiate is cost justification. If it costs me less to sell this guy because he's buying pallets, or this guy's buying onesies, twosies, I can charge it a premium for that, the onesies, twosies, because it costs me more. I got order pickers, I got other kinds of things going on, freight may be higher. Just like I'll reward those people who place big orders with me than a gazillion little orders. Which that reminds me of something that I'll get off on a rant here, but a lot of distributors have gotten out of the inventory business. So they're pushing it back on manufacturers. They want it just in time. And then it's reasonable as a manufacturer to say, wait a minute, when I'm giving you these 30 points or 22 points or whatever, implicit in that is that you'll inventory for me and you'll sell it. If you're not inventory and you're dependent on just in time, that raises my costs because now I'm going to do more shipments or whatever. I'm cutting your margin because you don't need all those points. You're not performing those functions. You perform the functions, I'll cover you. You're not performing the functions, why the hell should I pay for it? So the smart distributors, they do both. They push you to keep the margin up, but then they push back on you the services and other kinds of things. A perfect example of that is Home Depot. So you go into Home Depot, and periodically you may see somebody in there dusting the shelves and rotating stock. Those aren't Home Depot employees. Home Depot requires its manufacturers, like DeWalt and other tool manufacturers or whatever, to send in detailers to dust the shelves. If they don't, Home Depot charges them back for that. So think about it. From a Home Depot point of view, boy, isn't that smart? Normally that would be a cost. I'd have my own personnel have to do that, but I'm going to push it back on the manufacturer. That increases my margin. And then manufacturers go along with it because they want to sell to Home Depot. It's what I call the greater fool theory. But they may have no choice in doing that. But what a smart thing from a distributor point of view. Similarly, in automotive, hey, if I'm a distributor and I don't carry all this inventory, that lowers my costs. If I push it back on the manufacturer and I maintain the margin, put more money in my pocket. Don't get me started.
This guy. Yeah, so I don't know if that helps a little bit. And really, it's difficult because as he's talking, I'm thinking about it. It's like you have to know what the market will bear, right? Where's the market at? How much can you make? Like can you even be competitive in this? You know, are you bringing something that no one else has done? Are you solving a problem that all the other products have that you like, oh, I figured this out, you know? We designed a monolock that basically is patented by the owner of the company, and it solved that problem of that little squirrel cage getting caught behind the pressure plate, the diaphragm spring. And it's incredible, but you can't even buy that from the manufacturer that makes those directly. You have to buy the whole clutch to be able to do it. So you would have to know what those structures are, also know what your customers' needs are in terms of margin. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to it. So yeah. So real quick, any other questions or? Yeah.
Kind of a little off the subject in a way, but does the manufacturer ever have a suggested retail price or suggested price on? I've seen that on other things, and I'm just curious, you know, what the manufacturer's role in that is, if they have a suggested price or if they're pushing a suggested price.
It's lawful. It's just a purely suggested price. It's lawful to do it. Think about the sticker price on a car, right? What's that? That's a suggested price. Nobody pays sticker unless the product is in incredible demand, and then you'll have dealers will go above sticker, but that's pretty rare. But that is what it really is on the part of the manufacturer. If you think about it, it's kind of an upper bound. Same thing if you buy potato chips, Frito-Lay products. They're imprinted. You go into Walmart, it'll say bag of chips, $5.39 is what it says on the printed thing. Walmart's selling it for $4.50. And they can do that, but the bags are imprinted with that higher price. And it provides an upper bound. Nobody wants to walk into a store when it's the price that's imprinted says $5.39 and they're charged $6.50. Unless they live in New York, then it's okay. But so you can do that if you want to. You can do a maximum resale price program if you want to. And we've had some clients, particularly when there was price gouging, or not price gouging, but prices went way up, and some people were taking advantage of during COVID or whatever, where they wanted to set maximum prices or pricing ranges. You can do that too, where you can say, you can't charge less than this and you can't charge more than this. because we don't want to piss people off by selling it to a higher price. So you can activate that, or you can just print your products with that as to provide an upper bound or otherwise. In a lot of industries, particularly in business-to-business selling, they have suggested resale prices or list prices that are purely fictitious, but they use that as a basis to say, oh, you're a distributor, you get 40 off list. So it's an artificial flag out there that provides the basis to say you get 40 off list. Everybody knows what they buy at, but they say, oh, it's 40 off list or whatever the number is. So it can have a bunch of different uses, and it really depends on what you want to do and what your goal is in having that kind of stuff. I mean, if it's printed with 539 and everybody's buying it every day for 450, you certainly got people running around thinking they got a deal.
Excellent. Anybody else? Yeah.
You touched briefly on DNS list implementation. Do you have some comments on maybe discussions that you've had with your distributors on best practices for bringing in DNS lists? I've had hundreds over my years, and they're not always uniform, and it is pretty difficult to actually try to take action against them, because sometimes you just have this guy's name and an address, sometimes you get a business name, sometimes you get a street address, and I'm sure that yours come out the same way every time, but going across 200 different brands, it's very hard to pull all of them in and actually be compliant with everything. Is there like an anchor that you guys use, like physical address, phone number, like what is the, you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we absolutely do that. So we basically start with their name. We start with the first column is the date of noncompliance, and I like to sort that the newest to the oldest. And there's some customers that'll say, I only want to know the new stuff. But no, you have to leave all of it out there, because at the bottom of my list is Amazon. It's been there for years, and it always probably will be, sadly, right? So I know that if that goes away, you're going to think, oh, he's letting Amazon get away with it. No, I'm not. So I start with the date, and then I do it alphabetically, because I just think alphabetically is a best practice, because I'm not going to put SFX, parts above auto accessories, or, you know what I mean?
So I guess what I would be asking is, like, let's say you have auto accessories. Well, half of the DNS lists may come through with auto accessories and half come through with autoaccessories.com.
Yeah.
So if you're taking a couple hundred DNS lists and hopefully once a month, you're going to have a technology that anchors that and brings it in. And you're going to have your reference where you try to identify it against your customer list, and then you try to black out certain brands that they are no longer eligible for. But which cross-reference is a best practice? Because like from what I've seen, the name typically isn't good enough unless you're asking resellers to go in and start trying to pull apart.
Validate.
Yeah, they're DBA changes. So that's what I was going to get to. So the first column is kind of what usually the name is that you see out there. Then the next column is, I call it AKA, also known as, and I list every single thing I can find on them. And we do an incredible amount of detective work to find that information out so that we can be as helpful as possible. And then we show the street address, the city, the zip code, Canada, US, and they'll know, and the phone number. And sometimes you're right, it's not available. But the good news is, for the most part, a lot of distributors can have their own database and their own cross-references, and they know. And more times than not, when I keep seeing somebody violate, I will call their department and go, help me help you. What's their other name? Oh, well, now they're calling themselves SF101. For real, that's a real life thing that happened to me. And there's this one customer, he just keeps doing business as a new name. That's so ridiculous. Like, again, I say to you guys, if you just used your powers for good instead of evil, you'd make more money and you could sleep at night, like, easily, right? It's like so dumb. Yeah. Well, I'll give you a great one that happened, okay? This is really how scary this is. I'm just going to say two words to you. Money laundering. There was a guy on Amazon, and he was selling our product. So our product is also serialized, so I know who got what and where it is in the world. I know who to call if something happens, right? So I find the distributor. It turns out that this distributor is like, okay, yeah. This customer we had many DBAs, and so I had all of them. And so the product actually shipped from an area that's known for a certain syndicate to live that does a lot of things wrong in that. And they shipped it from a storage facility. Huh? But here's the kicker. They bought it at full price. And at first I didn't get it. I'm like, why would they buy it at full price? He goes, are they just mad at you, Rich? Are they just trying to like get you with because they're mad at you? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. He goes, oh, credit card fraud. So he goes and he checks it and he goes, calls me back, he goes, this is weird. He goes, they never go online and order. They always use a credit card. It's a different credit card, but it's legit. But they only phone their orders in, and they phone them in from all these different phone numbers. And I put it together, and then I found an address, and I Zillowed it, and it was a mansion. And I went, oh, this is not good. And I said, stop everything. They're laundering money. And he went, oh. And I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wrap my head around selling something that should be $100 for $50, but you're trying to clean the money, so they don't care.
So they were buying retail off you, advertising it at a deep discount.
Exactly. That's a lot of what you're seeing out there. And then what this company did was they continued to do this, but they would go to computers next, because now it just kind of became a fascination for me. How is this happening? Next thing I know, they're selling computers. Next, they're selling women's dresses. Next, they're selling, sportswear. All at a deep discount, because think about it. You don't want to clean the money by buying a boat or a yacht. You want to do nothing that's going to bring any attention to you. So that's, unfortunately, sadly, what the internet has brought us, is there's people out there that are just, they're selling at a loss, but it's because they're cleaning money. That's stolen money. Yeah. I mean, right? Does anybody else have a problem with that math in their head? I can't get it. I just can't get it, but it's true. So that's what they do. Another one we... Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Any other questions or so? Do we have somebody next, Meredith?
Another question. So how do you guys recover your cost on if you are taking the time of going through every one of your retailers or your distributors' email to make sure that they've got the right SKU numbers, the right sales price, all the information? You're spending a lot of time in software, I'm sure, tracking that. How do you recover that cost of paying somebody that's their job on a daily or weekly basis or monthly? How do you recover that cost? Or is that something you as a company are absorbing just because that's a policy within your company?
Great question, yeah. So how do we absorb the cost of that? That's exactly it. It just becomes the cost of doing business now. Now, we've got it down to, we have an IT director, and he developed an app out of, what's the Access database. And I used to be great in Access, but this guy's a wizard. And he's made it so easy for our personnel to do it. Our CSRs can do this job daily, and each of them can take a portion and do it. They literally can click on a link and it'll show them all of the ACT, or it'll show them all of that Google shopping. You're going to find most everything on Google, to be honest with you. You're going to find Amazon, you're going to find eBay, you're going to find it pretty much all to this point. With Amazon, you can actually get the ASIN number, and there's a certain way you can put it in the URL, and it'll show every single seller that's selling that ASIN. It like goes, let me search, and it goes, brrr. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, and it'll just go like, it'll show you every single reseller that's selling your product. It's pretty crazy. Walmart does the same thing. To your point, Amazon now puts addresses down, but they do give a doing business as name, which is helpful. But usually those addresses are a UPS store,
Or phony.
post office, yeah. They're not policing that.
The other side of the coin, obviously, is if you're going to make this kind of investment, you've got to see that the payoff is worth it. And you've touched on this, Rich, before, but from your point of view, and you guys have been very aggressive enforcing your policy. As you said, there were some lumps and bumps at the beginning, but you've lived with it for some time now. You know, what's the payoff? Why do you keep doing this? By doing this, we've increased our business exponentially because people want to sell our brand. People want to make money. People want a brand they can trust. People want a brand that really works. We stand for that, and I can only just tell you, yeah, the first year did hurt. It was hard. But after that, the owner of the company said, we are going to weather this storm. I'm investing, I'm betting on you, I believe in this, we're going to do this. And he invested in it, took his own money, and he said, I don't care, we're gonna do this, and we did it. And all it took was to take one of the biggest distributors and put them on the do not sell list, and everybody went, what? I had arguments with people like, oh, well, you're never gonna put so-and-so on there. I go, watch me, already did. What, you did? Yeah. I don't care. It's just yes or no. I got no, whatever the saying is in this fight. I have nothing. I'm just trying, it's just yes or no. When really I do, because I'm trying to make money as a salesperson, but at the same time, pragmatically, when you look at it, at the end of all this, we make more now because we sell more now, because people trust us and they go, they mean business. You know how many people will go talk to Rich, ask him what they're doing. And sadly, I will bend your ear whenever you want. The problem is when you give your information for free, people don't put a value to that, unfortunately, and they act like, there's really nothing to this, you know. And so, you know, I still will help people. I don't care. I will still help them because I want to see this industry thrive. But that's been my experience, that they'll ask you all the questions, and the people that really want it, they go for it, and they do it. I got a phone call recently from a in-house lawyer at a company that makes musical instruments that we did a map policy for. And he said, I want to show you something. He said, are you at your computer? I said, yes. And so he said, go to these websites, or I'll share my screen with you. And we went through and we looked at this particular instrument. And no matter what website you went to, it was the same price. And he said, 3 years ago, we didn't think we could do this. Here's where we are right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I said, you know, we wrote you a good policy, but you guys had the commitment to implement it, and you took this very seriously, and that's why you are where you are now. I'm not saying they don't have problems, but the fact that there was this uniformity, they were just as pleased as could be, and they never thought they would get there. And the sales force actually applauded it when we announced it. They applauded it because, not because of the resistance I talked about before, or the absence of it, but they said, we get in these discussions all the time with dealers, and by you setting this up and taking it away from us and putting it at the policy administrator level, now we don't have this conversation. When a dealer complains, you can say, you know, I feel your pain and everything else, but I can't do anything about this, call the policy administrator. And it took it out of their hands. They loved it, and it's been very successful. And I would say most of the policies we've done, to my knowledge, have been successful. Some have failed, and the ones that have failed, it's well written, but they don't enforce it.
Yeah, and to kind of go a step further with that, you know, when you have people doing customer service, there's always those parts of the day where it's not busy. And shopping a few things online, and when you have a tool to actually get you right into those sites like that, it's pretty fast. The only time it will slow you down is when you find a violator, you take a screenshot, and we've even implemented things like that where you hit print screen and it goes to a certain, you know, online folder, and then we have folders for every single person that has violated. They have their name, and then inside that folder is a folder with a date, and then inside that is the screenshot, so that we have backup for all this stuff, right? But the point being, it's really not as bad as you would think. And especially now there's never been a better time to probably have a pricing policy, because people are used to it now, and they're used to people enforcing it. But when I started, it was not a thing. It was absolutely not a thing. And it was very difficult. But again, we fell on our own sword because I had no one to look to. Like, how do you do this? You know, how does Sony do it? How does Nintendo do it? You know, and then I got to meeting Gene at a conference that we were at, and man, we just started talking. And so we've been giving these seminars for years. I just feel so bad that I didn't look at the time. That's not normally like me, right? Ugh, hate
Well,
this.
no, we're still okay. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, but it's up to you guys. Any more
There's only
questions?
4 slides left, to be honest, to be fair, so.
Yeah, but they're not very good.
How dare you? Actually, there's only 3 slides left because the last slide is the, hey, thank you, yada, yada, we can do this kind of a thing. You want to see it? All right, real quick. So, reinstated reseller list. Why is this good? You want to tell people they've been reinstated. When someone gets reinstated, just like someone gets a DNS email, they get a reinstated email from me. It goes, hey man, great job, you're back on board, blah, 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 blah. Here's the price sheet, here's the reinstated list, here's everything. So that they have all that information again. And what that does for you in sales or your salespeople, that's something your salespeople should be using. I'd be all over that going, hey man, you know, and we have distributors. I know what their salespeople are doing. They're looking at the internet and they're calling their customers going, dude, what are you doing? We want you to sell this product. You should, you know, they can encourage them that way. They're not, you know, forcing them to do anything. And then I basically just say an acronym for data is ART. It has to be accurate, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be timely. That's really important. Those are the 3 critical things about it. And I also say, there's an old saying that says, you can't manage effectively what you don't manage, you can't manage effectively what you don't measure accurately. And then I add to that and I say, and don't measure what you're not going to use. How many times have we been in meetings where someone's pulling up slides and they're like, and then this graph, and I'll just raise my hand and go, I'm an idiot. How are we going to use that? Boo. Like, they don't know. They don't know.
I work with a channels of distribution consultant where they would say, when situations like that, they would say IBI, interesting but irrelevant.
Oh.
Yeah, IBI, interesting but irrelevant.
I like that. I'm going to use that. So yeah, don't waste your time on that stuff. You know, when people are like, oh, how was the sale? Like, what were the big things that sold? And blah, blah, blah. What are you going to use that for? You personally. I'm happy to give it to you, but don't make me do something that you're really not going to use because you're going to waste your time and my time if you're never going to look at it. So that's important. Handling questions from resellers, he said it, answer them right away. I tell everybody, you got to send it in writing. Do not call me on the phone because, you know, we don't talk to you. We won't do that. Why? Because it becomes a game of he said, she said. I don't allow anybody on my team. The only 2 people that can talk to the person about the pricing is the administrator that we have, the owner of the company, or myself. Those are the only 3 people. Why? Because you don't want a he said, she said.
Or
And you don't
inconsistent.
want that, they'll own this on a salesperson. Then they can go, man, that's not my deal. I just sell stuff. You know, I don't enforce that.
The other thing you don't want is inconsistent advice. So president of the company says, oh yeah, you can do that, where you're telling them, no, you can't do that, or somebody else that they can't do that. So you want a consistent story with consistent advice.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, like I had a boss once who he wanted to start talking to the buyer directly from AutoZone. They were just going back and forth. And I go, this has to stop, and it has to stop now. He says, why? I like talking to the owner. I said, because your no, and it will happen. Sir, you will have to say no at some point. Your no is a hell no. My no is, let me go run that up the flagpole and see what I can do. Tap dancing, right? That's what's important. So anyway, you don't want to get into the telephone game. You don't want if the policy admin is absent, you have someone else do it that is the designated officer to respond. And include relevant information in the policy. Why resellers don't comply, we kind of hit on it, but they added the line, but they've never sold any product, I'll tell you. Well, I've never sold anything. The reason that they're mad is because they got caught. They finally got a sale, and now they can't fulfill it because the distributors are doing a great job not selling them, right? And they'll go, oh, it's all right, man. I went ahead and I got it from my buddy who's got a shop. Okay, if that's true, then the buddy with the shop should be super mad that he, right? Like, wait a minute, he's selling at the right price and he's going to help you sell it for a lower price? What are you, nuts? I don't know, I'm buying that. But after the reseller is on the DNS list, usually the order comes in and then you hear from them. But if you don't for a long time, it's because it's just not on their radar, or they're just ignoring it and they don't care. They've got another job during the day and this is a side hustle. Or they're laundering money. We've covered that. That was fantastic. The reseller informed by distributor that is on the DNS list. That happens, and the reseller remains on the DNS list, but sooner or later it'll surface. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I encourage people, report to me, report to us, the evildoers. There are evildoers in the world that are doing the evil, okay? Report them to us, and we'll handle it. And we'll send you an email and go say, hey, thank you, we can't discuss, we would never discuss your business with someone else. We're not going to discuss their business with you, but know that we're taking action. And people love that. And you know who will do it first is the person that gets busted with their finger in the cookie jar. They will absolutely go, he did it, she did it, they did it. It's like the old pointer dog. There it is, there it is, there it is. And then the pincher, a pinch, pinch, pinch. Anyway, no, sorry. All right, so it will happen. You can sell some of the resellers some of the time, but not all of the resellers all the time. It's the number one thing I had to learn, is that as much as I love ACT, as much as I love the brand and everything we do, you just realize some people shouldn't sell your brand. They just shouldn't. Don't let them. They're absolutely, you've spent millions to build your company. In marketing, in sales, in research and development, in engineering, in employees, workers' comp, yada, yada, phone bills, whatever that looks like. And for your product to be devalued by some reseller who wants to make 5 points or 2 points, what is that? It's just awful. So authorized resellers are an extension of your company. People look to them, and the people that are really selling your product well are helping those customers through. You know, they're selling the product right the first time. I love to say no one wants to do a clutch job twice. Am I right? Amen. Yes, amen. So you want to be in a situation where you give all the information up in advance. That's why we're so big on data. We want people to know that they're getting the right part, you know, for what they want. Yeah, sell it right the first time and keep it sold. Whoever wrote that, it's pretty cool. All right, here we go. We can do this. So it's questions, answers, questions. Thank you all for coming out today. I'm sorry it went over. You're all amazing for hanging in there. And I hope there were some good nugs in there that will help you in your business. If you ever have any questions, please reach out. This will be available online afterwards through PRI. They'll also have the whole slideshow and sadly the video. You're welcome, America.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to everybody.
Thank you.